Going back to the analogy of the dream, when the dreamer falls asleep and imagines the dreamed world within her own mind, she has to enter her own imagination as the dreamed character, the separate subject of experience, from whose point of view the dreamed world may be known or perceived. From the point of view of the dreamed character, the separate subject of experience, reality seems to be divided into two separate parts. Matter on the outside, out of which the world, objects and others are made, and mind on the inside, out of which her thoughts, images and feelings are made. That is how reality appears from the perspective of the separate subject of experience. And that is why reality appears to each of us to be comprised of matter on the outside, out of which the world seems to be made, and mind on the inside, out of which our thoughts and feelings seem to be made. But when the dreamer wakes up, she realizes that what seemed to be a duality of mind and matter from the perspective of the separate subject of experience in the dream was, in fact, all her own intimate, indivisible, unlimited mind. It is exactly the same here when we wake up from the dream of the waking state. We recognize that what seems to be matter on the outside, out of which the world is made, and mind on the inside, out of which our thoughts, images and feelings are made, is in fact one all seamless, intimate, indivisible, and infinite consciousness. And just as the dreamed character, that is, the separate subject of experience within the dream, believes and feels that her experience takes place in time and space. But when the dreamer wakes up, she realizes that what appeared to be time and space from the point of view of the character in the dream, in fact, took up no time or space in her own mind. In exactly the same way, what seems to us, from the point of view of our separate individual minds, to be time and space, the containers in which our experience apparently takes place, is in fact dimensionless consciousness. It is dimensionless consciousness refracted through the prism of thought that appears to itself as time. It is dimensionless consciousness refracted through the prism of perception that appears to itself as space. In other words, time and space are what eternal infinite consciousness look like when viewed through the prism of the finite mind or separate self. as imagination bodies forth the forms of things unknown, a poet's pen turns them to shapes and gives to airy nothing a temporary name and form. That's Shakespeare from A Midsummer Night's Dream. And as imagination bodies forth the forms of things unknown, a poet's pen turns them to shapes and gives to airy nothing a local habitation and a name. Would that I had the eloquence and economy of William Shakespeare. I need so many words to say what he said with so few. And as infinite consciousness vibrates within itself and assumes the form of the finite mind, it brings existence out of being and gives itself a temporary name and form. "200 years later, William Blake, one of the other great tantric masters of the Western tradition, said the same thing in this way: every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight enclosed by the five senses. Every bird that flies through the sky, or indeed any object that appears, is the immense and inherently joyful presence of awareness, enclosed by sense perception. Perception is, as such, the agency or the activity through which infinite consciousness manifests itself as form. Perception is creation. All we know of the world is mind. Seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling. Has anyone here ever experienced a world outside of perception? Therefore, the mind's knowledge of the world can only ever be as good as its knowledge of itself. Scientists have been